The United States has asked the UN Security Council to approve a 4,000-strong peacekeeping force for South Sudan. Now, the US wants that regional force to use all means necessary to secure Juba and protect key facilities. The troops would be part of UNMISS, the UN peacekeeping mission there. The draft resolution also proposes extending that mandate until December. While the Security Council does need to adopt that resolution by Friday when the current UNMISS mandate expires. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council is also set to vote on imposing an arms embargo on South Sudan. Right, let's bring you more on that now. We're joined here in our studio by South Sudan's presidential spokesperson, Ateni Wek Ateni. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Let's
Thank
start.
you so much.
It's a pleasure. Well, of course, there has been some progress most recently with these latest round of talks in Addis Ababa. A regional force has been agreed to. Just explain to us what will determine now the mandate and the size of that AU regional force.
Thank you. Actually, the regional meeting in Addis Ababa, the IGAD meeting, IGAD Plus meeting, the second extraordinary meeting, has actually highlighted key points, particularly in Article 13, A, B, and C, because the Article 13A actually stressed the fact that the government of South Sudan has agreed in principle, for a regional protection force, which will be protecting the IDPs, will be protecting the GMACT, and will be protecting the key humanitarians and relief, installations, and again, the armament and the compositions, would be actually determined in lines or in connection with the government of the Republic of South Sudan, the transitional government of national unity, and also they have recognized the fact that they have to work with the current setting of the transitional national unity government with Taban Dengai as the first vice president.
Okay. Well,
yes.
let's quickly go back to the fact that you said that they've agreed in principle to a regional force. Now, of course, we're just reporting on the fact that the US is proposing additional troops of about 4,000. They're asking that the UN bring these troops into Juba. What's your feeling on that then?
Well, that will be against the spirit of finding a home-breed solutions. This is an African problem that should also receive the African solutions. For the U.S. To come in with additional troops, which will be outside the spirit of what the IGAD has agreed upon, and the AU in Addis Ababa recently, that 2 days ago, would be an impeachment to the sovereignty of South Sudan.
Let's go back to the issue then of the first vice president. Riek Machar might very well return to Juba. What happens then as we now move into this sort of new phase and try and ensure that peace remains in Juba?
Well, it has been, well articulated in the Article 15 of the communique of the IGAD Extra Fast, the second extraordinary meeting in Addis Ababa. It says that they encourage Dr. Riek Machar to come back to Juba, and try also to get to work with President Salva Kiir.
Will he be able to resume his position though?
Well, the IGAD says they recognize or they welcomed the gesture of goodwill from Taban Dengai, who said he will step aside if Dr. Riek comes, and then they maintain the status quo, which means he will be going back to his position, and Dr. Riek will be coming. That's what the IGAD has actually said in their extraordinary
So
meeting.
IGAD has established the first steps towards peace. What now needs to happen to make sure that that peace agreement signed last year gets back on track?
Well, the peace agreement is intact. In fact, has not been injured completely, because President Salva Kiir has actually expressed his commitment and his political will to continue to implement the peace agreement, even after the incident of State House on the 8th of July, when Dr. Riek forces attacked the presidential palace. President Salva Kiir maintained the fact that there's no alternative other than to continue to implement the peace agreement on resolution of conflict. And Taban Dengai, as the new leader of the SPLM-IO, is exactly doing the same. And Juba is better, is saved in the two-man hand than any other person.
Is there a sense of political will across the board, and particularly on the two sides, Riek Machar, Salva Kiir, to ensure that they stick to the principles agreed upon in that peace agreement back in August last year?
Well, to the side of the government, the side that I represent, the side of President Salva Kiir, yes, there is a political will, but where will you be able to talk about Dr. Riek Machar political will when in actual fact he's not communicating, he's nowhere to be seen? Even the IGAD who are actually encouraging him to come back to Juba have not contacted him for the last 21 days. So his whereabouts is unknown, remain unknown, and remain to be seen if he is there actually to express the political will to continue and implement the peace agreement together with President Salva Kiir.
All right, we wait and see, and I suppose his highly anticipated return to Juba. Thank you very much for that insight. Ateniwe Kateni, South Sudan's presidential spokesperson, live with us here in our Nairobi studio.